And good morning to all of you. I hope you all had a great yoga session. I heard that's what you had. So you're all relaxed, open to talk actually about beauty tech and cosmetic and trends and innovation in beauty tech and cosmetic. I'm Dominique Putet. I'm the CEO of Unit City, and I'm also the CEO of a company called Sector X, which does and we do matchmaking between large corporation and the startup world. I'm based in Kiev, in Ukraine, and I'm excited about this panel because I think beauty is a sector that is evolving tremendously. I also think the pandemic changed a few things, and we want to discover all this. And to do that, I would like to introduce you to our guest, Mark Sochuk. Mark is the general manager of L'Oréal in Ukraine. So, I mean, look, guys, when you want to talk about cosmetic trends, beauty tech, you have to have L'Oréal on board, or basically you have no one. Mark, welcome.
Hi, Dominique. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Some housekeeping before we start. If you want to ask question, guys, we love it. It's in the chat or the comment, and then we will try to save time at the end to ask question. We're going to spend 45 minutes together, Mark. But let's maybe first set the stage. When we talk about beauty and tech, we can mean a lot of things. I mean, everything is tech in this world, from communication, marketing, sustainability, but also the way you make your products, you package them, etc. Um, how do you view this topic from your L'Oréal point of view? What is
Yeah,
beauty and tech for you?
yeah, you're right. You're right. It tends to cover a wide kind of scope of things. But first, I just wanted to say thanks for this invitation, and thanks to Kevin as well. It's the first time I'm participating, so I'm always thrilled to talk about beauty, about our company, and to share all the exciting stuff that's going on. And I was having a meeting with some new employees, and I just said this is probably the most exciting time to be in
Hmm.
FMCG, to be in the business, because we're always saying as well that things change, right? Like that there's changes going on, and obviously we're
Right.
living through this COVID mess. But to me, it's just such an interesting time because of all of the new stuff that's linking now, digital and the internet and beauty. So when we talk about tech, now we've been doing e-commerce. Like, this is not something that's new for us. It's not something that we started doing in the last few years. We were one of the first beauty companies to get on board with digital and social media. But today I want to talk about what's next, what we're doing for the future, because all this digital stuff is not really new for us.
Right.
And
Right.
now when we're talking about, our former CEO, he basically gave us the challenge, and he said, guys, L'Oreal is no longer a beauty company, but we have to be seen as a beauty tech company, because tech is part of our consumers' lives. Okay. Everybody has their device, everybody has their smartphone. And the fusion now between the tech stuff and the beauty stuff, they have to go hand in hand. So now it's not just a question of innovating products. L'Oreal's been around for 111 years. It's no longer just about having the best products. We have to make sure that they click with this whole digital environment ecosystem.
It's very interesting because it seems to me that more and more, and that's kind of what you're saying, the digital world and the physical world are kind of almost melting together. Like today, if you're a taxi company, basically, if you don't understand Uber, well, I mean, and so even taxi company are tech taxi company, hotel business. What is more physical than an hotel? And an hotel business is now a tech hotel business, and it's Airbnb or other things. How do you view the market? I mean, you're a very large company, as you mentioned. You have a huge legacy. What is the mindset you need as a large company to enter the tech mindset in a way?
Well, I think Dominique, the first thing we need to do is always to be ready to embrace all this new stuff. Okay, and it's coming from everywhere. And you have this not invented here syndrome. Okay, which unfortunately many
Yes.
companies, you know it, right? And that's not what we have at L'Oreal. We have to be open, and this is why, for example, we're partnering with you with Sector X, because we realize that we're not going to be able to create all these things ourselves. Okay, like basically what we're good at is we're good at manufacturing products. Okay, that's our skill. But we have to look for the startups. We have to purchase, invest in companies, because we don't have that knowledge and things are going so fast. So I think the first thing is a mindset thing, is to say we're ready to take a bet. We're ready to try things differently, build the infrastructure, because as you know, at Unit
Mhm.
City, like, you need all of the resources behind, you need the people, you need, and a lot of the stuff that's going on in Paris right now is just amazing, with the incubator labs, and then you also have to put the money behind it, which is, as you know, startups maybe are not necessarily successful all the time. So I think you have to have an acceptance of risk. You have to be open and curious, and you have to be ready to always try something different, because that's the way you're going to get the super ideas.
Let's, of course, I know we can discuss a lot about the trends, but actually there was a big event that happened in all of our lives recently, which is COVID, and COVID changed a lot of things, including in the way we shop, and in the way the consumers shop. Was it good for your e-commerce? Did you what did you sell?
Well, just like as I mentioned earlier, Dominique, the we did not start e-commerce, the e-commerce business in the past couple of years. We were already transforming our company, and our previous chief digital officer, Lubomira Rocher, she number of years ago when she arrived, she basically said, "Look, the group has to." Put some targets, put some KPIs. So I think it was probably 5, 6 years ago, where the group put a target of 10% of our sales coming from e-commerce. Okay, let's aim for 10. All right, some countries
Okay.
did it. China, this kind of thing. UK, very advanced, and some countries, a little bit more traditional markets, very bricks and mortar. So they weren't going as fast. Okay, and the group has now put a target of 50% of our sales coming from e-commerce. That's the reality.
50%.
50% in the
Wow.
coming years. Okay. And the reason why I'm
Wow.
giving this context, to answer your question, COVID did not change our plans. COVID just accelerated them. Okay. So we were already doing e-commerce. We had the people, we had the structures, and it just got faster. It got faster. And then obviously, we do have a big part of our business, the part that's not on e-commerce, which is in bricks and mortar. Traditionally, we have very big partners. This is where consumers often discover the product. They want to touch it. So e-commerce has its pluses, but also we have to understand that the offline also plays an important role. So obviously, when parts of the distribution channels are shut down, then the consumer has no choice but to explore online. You know, so it's accelerated, but it did not really. It wasn't a reason why we entered into something. It just made it go faster.
But that's, to me, that's very interesting, because e-commerce is a new set of, it requires new skill sets. L'Oreal was very well known for being one of the best in the world at marketing,
Absolutely.
and for years and years and years. But how did you switch from physical marketing to online marketing? Did you had to hire new talents? You had to train people, and actually, how do you follow those trends? Like, all of a sudden, everybody's on Instagram. So,
Yep.
what do you do, and how do you do this?
Well, like I say, we had to embrace change, and one of the first phases of embracing change is to develop a sense of urgency. So we had to say, look, we have to start. We have to start somewhere. And I always like telling the story that when I became country manager 6 years ago here in Ukraine, I think we had basically two digital specialists. Okay, we had two people out of a team of, let's say, 250 that were dedicated to digital. So the marketing people were
Wow.
dabbling a little bit. We didn't have any dedicated e-commerce people. Okay, and we just said we got to go. And I think today we're at about 35 people. Okay, we have interns, and we have to find a mix, because we experimented. Sometimes we take somebody who has marketing experience, just like you said, and we say, okay, why don't you try e-commerce? Well, they don't have necessarily the skills. that a true e-commerce business requires. So what we need to do is we need to play it smartly. We need to find a mix of people who have the L'Oreal knowledge that we upskill to the new skill sets they need, like social media. You mentioned Instagram, this kind of thing, but you also have to hire people from outside. Okay, and as you know, in Ukraine, this market is quite dynamic, and there's a big demand because we're not the only ones playing this game.
And how do you differentiate from local players to global players? My example is, for example, in Ukraine we have a company called Rosetka, which is a local player. We have a company called Watson, which is probably big in your business, but they're only in Ukraine or mostly in Ukraine. So not only you have to understand the bigger channels, but you have to kind of almost specialize in each channel. How do you do that, and how do you
It's
follow
it,
this?
it's a good question, Dominique. It's a good question because we're getting through it right now. What we have to understand, especially on e-commerce, is that e-commerce doesn't know any borders. Okay, so now we
Yes.
are moving away. The L'Oreal mindset was we want to be close to the consumer. We want to. That's why we have a subsidiary in Ukraine that we're not being managed from a larger country, for example. So our philosophy was always we need to be local in order to manage and deal with our local customers. Okay, but now the whole e-commerce thing, it requires new governance, and I don't have the answer for you today because it's being worked out still. So, for example, if we take our one of our major beauty partners called Makeup.ua, okay, they are a Ukrainian company, but they are present in other European countries. So the question is, does the governance stay in Ukraine, even though they're going to be doing more turnover in a neighboring country? Should the governance be in Paris, but then do the people have the language skills in order to do it? So to answer your question, it's ongoing. We're trying to figure it out, and we have big players on a European level. You have Amazon, and then you have like, for example, Notino, which is based in the Czech Republic, but they're doing business in Ukraine. So the governance and the future reality of cross border is something that has to be taken into account.
It's to me it's interesting because and I always feel like it's both local and global, and some people say global. I hate that,
Global.
because actually, yeah, it's not global. Actually, it's really global and it's really local, and it's very different. Let's move maybe a little bit deeper into the topic, because when we prepared this, we had a conversation about, okay, what does it mean to be a beauty tech company? Is it just a flavor, because everybody has to say their whatever tech, or is it deeper? And of course, you believe this. It's
you,
it's
you
it's it's much deeper for
you know
L'Oreal.
you know what I'm
But,
going to tell you, right, Dominique? That it's
of course,
definitely
I know,
not.
but I would like to for you to give us a few example of
Sure.
heavy innovation you're working on that are truly a demonstration that you are becoming a beauty tech company.
Sure. Well, I mentioned the importance of the offline, right, where people can have the
Yes.
experience. And at L'Oreal, we have different, obviously, a huge collection of brands. We have four divisions where we operate: the mass division, and then we have what's called selective divisions, which are more premium. But the difference in the selective divisions, Dominique, is that they're focused on service. Okay, so if we start with service, right, one of the traditional roles, let's say in the luxury division, was the beauty consultant. So the consumer would go into a luxury point of sale and get service. So, skin advice, makeup, so they could go get a look, and it was all being done through the beauty advisor. Okay, so this is the service that is being done. Okay, in order to drive the sales and then
Mhm.
justify a higher price, like in the hotel business, whatever, right? So give you an example: augmented reality. Okay, so augmented reality, and when we think of the Pokemon augmented reality, where everybody was looking for their thing on the street, well,
Pokemon
we kind
Go.
of did the same thing. Yeah, Pokemon Go. So we bought, as I mentioned earlier, we bought a startup called Modiface, Canadian startup, a number of years ago, and their specialty was augmented reality. So how does L'Oreal use this augmented reality? Is that we then put the screen, and we also give the consumer the opportunity to download our apps, and they're able to have augmented reality used to show how the product is going to look on them. So they can have their entire look. They can do it at the point of sale instead of having a mirror and a tester. You're now having this whole augmented reality. You can do it for hair. So, for example, if you're in the hair salon, and in the past you would have a shade book where the hairdresser would show a swatch of hair, how it would look color. Well, now they can show the whole look. You can show the cut, and that's all through augmented reality. And that's on the service level. And coming back to the COVID situation, obviously for sanitary reasons now we have to really be careful about the testers and this kind of thing in the point of sale. So again, it was a timely investment that the group decided to go down the augmented reality route. Okay, but let's go further. Okay, so that's on the service, that's on a look. But if we
Cool.
go into our dermatological division, which our products are sold, Vichy and La Roche-Posay sold in pharmacies, now we're getting into health. Okay, now we're getting into not just changing your look or changing your hairstyle. We are now giving the consumer the opportunity to do a check at home, and we have two softs two apps that La Roche-Posay especially, because they're very strongly linked to dermatological advice, and they're very strongly linked to the doctors. We have a big medical detailing team. So we have one which is called Skin Consult, which basically, with a couple of selfies, the customer can then see what their skin is like today. So is it dry? Is it red? And then immediately they can connect to their derm, and the derm can start to make a deeper analysis and recommend a product. Now these are things that really change people's lives, right? When you have a skin problem, it could be a sign of something more serious. So perhaps if a person was hesitant to actually go see a derm, because sometimes it's not a lot of fun to have to go visit a doctor, this gives people the opportunity to do it at home. Okay, and there's another one we have which is called Spot Scan, and it's the same kind of concept, but it's for acne. Okay, so what it does, it will scan your face, and then it will show you where you have the acne blemishes. You then connect with the derm, and the derm can then continue the discussion and offer a solution. And acne for young people is such a it can even be a traumatic kind of experience
Oh
where
yeah,
they're
it
they're
is, of
shy. It
course.
affects them.
Mhm.
So this to me is something that can really change people's lives through the use of this tech. And this is why I'm very proud to always talk about it, how we can help people. And it's just the tip of the iceberg, just the tip of the iceberg.
And also, I mean, for example, you work a lot with hair salon. I mean, what type of innovation would we see, for example, in hair salon?
Sure.
Because I mean, people need to get a haircut. We need to go. we
Exactly. Hair
so
grows.
yeah, this is going to say physical.
Yep.
So what type of innovation can you imagine there, and
Sure.
and how do you help or how do you support or what is your role?
Sure. Well, the hairdressing business is a B2B business, right? So we're dealing with entrepreneurs, small businesses, and so our approach is to help indeed the hairdresser, the owner. So on a first level is training. One of the probably the big investment that we do on the hairdressing division is to train the hairdressers to use professional products. That's why they're called professional products, is that you need to be trained in order to be able to correctly apply them. Okay. So traditionally, we have an academy, a training academy in our office, okay, where we would invite people,
Yes.
or we also have a team of people in the field. Things are changing because now we have digital. So on an education side, we can reach more hairdressers. They can learn when it's convenient for them because they have peak business hours where they're definitely not going to come into an academy, but they can learn on their own. They can get their certificates, and then at least this is something for us to connect with them. So on an education side, we have education platforms for hairdressers. Now let's talk about the business owner, right? So the owner of the salon has costs, right? You have your rent, etc. But let's take
Yes.
something
Uh-huh.
super basic, which is water. And this is almost my seg into sustainability. Okay, so L'Oreal has
Yes.
developed with a startup a device called Water Saver. Okay, now it might seem basic, but it's super important to understand that a hair salon consumes a lot of hot water. Okay, so you're paying for the heating of the water because no customer wants to have a cold shower at the wash basin. But the water that's consumed in a hairdressing salon is quite substantial. So L'Oreal has worked on a device which is called Water Saver, which consumes up to 80% less water at the wash basin, but it does not affect the product performance because it's got a system of aeration, which then links with our, for example, shampoos that are used, and it mixes them, pre-mixes them, so that by the time the water comes out onto the customer's hair, it's doing the same kind of thing rather than having to use it straight from the tap. So that saves money. It's good for the planet. Conversation piece for the hairdresser and the customer to say, this is something unique that you're only going to get in our
Yes,
salon.
of
And
course.
that's just one little example of the kind of stuff that tech can touch, on sustainability, on education. We had our project with Sector X that we did, and it was a simple thing, which was a database which helped the hairdresser manage their inventory better. Now, if you can have better inventory management, then you can reduce deliveries. Now, why is reducing deliveries good? Because it's good for the environment. So less CO2 in order to bring the products when the hairdresser knows exactly what is needed. So it's all linked. That how can tech make our world a little bit better?
And it's very interesting that you are involved in all this various component of the ecosystem, going all the way to your customer, the hair salon, but to the end customer. Let's actually move a little bit deeper into that topic of sustainability, because I know it's dear to you, but I know it's also dear to L'Oreal, and it's not just about being just a beauty tech company, but it's also being a better company, and doing our job better by probably also helping the planet. I know this is something you work a lot, but really, what are we talking about when we're talking about sustainability for L'Oreal? What are goals? Why?
So obviously, as the leader in worldwide leader in beauty, we do a lot of volume, right? We do a lot of volume, and traditionally we have billions of units of plastic. Okay, plastic. It's not something that's just for us, right? So automatically we have to reduce our plastic consumption. We have to guarantee. Recycling is not a hot topic anymore, unfortunately. Okay, it's something it's a must-have. Okay, but it goes back to the base of innovation, because obviously if you're going to be using plant-based materials in order to make the packaging, our formulas have to be able to live in that bottle, right? So there's a question of reformulation to make sure that our successful formulas, and we test, we I think we're putting something like 5% of our global net sales into research and development, so it's huge. L'Oreal has a vast catalog of products, and let's not forget that when L'Oreal launches a product successfully, the consumer is used to the way it works. So if you have a skincare product that you're used to, any small change to the formula, the consumer will notice. So we have to balance this now. So we need to become more green, but we have to also understand that our formulas need to also be perhaps rethought, re-engineered in order to be in this packaging. Okay, so it's the packaging. Now it's also where the product ends up. Okay, so it's partnering with our distributors, partnering with our retailers to make sure that we're not reducing, that we're not we're recycling properly, that we're using the right POS materials, the POSM, the point of sales materials. Like a few years ago, plastic was the thing because it looks nice, it lasts a long time. We have moved basically to cardboard. Okay, like we're really moving cardboard, but we have a lot of specificities, Dominique. That, for example, we don't want to laminate the cardboard because that has an environmental impact. So we don't do lamination of the cardboard anymore, even though it might not look as sexy as it did in the past. Okay, now I have a little thing here. Obviously, I have to promote L'Oreal. We always touch our products. So here you see
Yes, please show
Vichy
us.
sunscreen.
Cool,
Okay, so this is a
cool.
50 UV. So I recommend to all our
Mhm.
guests, especially the sun in Barcelona, use your sunscreen because it's the best way to stay young. Sun is the worst thing for your skin. So that's my health pitch. But the reason I'm showing you
Cool.
this this product is, if you notice the tube, that's a regular tube, right? It's
Mhm.
brown. Okay, this
Yes.
tube is made of cardboard. Okay,
Oh,
now,
cool. Super
yeah.
cool.
So it looks the same. It's the same, but everything except for the lid, we haven't got there yet. But the tube is made of cardboard. It even has a little warning here saying keep it away from water over time because it will behave like cardboard. So we have
Ah.
begun this transformation of even moving away from plastic towards
Mhm.
cardboard packaging. And this costs money. We probably had to work with a firm that was specialized in this, because this probably didn't come from our labs. Okay, I don't know the
Mhm.
story of it, but it just goes to show you that there's really no limit as to where you can go in terms of sustainability of your packaging. And then there's the question of, one of our goals in Ukraine. We have a program which is called L'Oreal for the Future, and it's
Mhm.
basically our commitment on a corporate level to our stakeholders, not just our shareholders, but our stakeholders, our NGOs, anybody we're working with. And we've put a lot of KPIs, and a lot of them based on, for example, water reduction in factories, because factories require a lot of water use. Uh, Energy use in the offices. Okay, so we have to have now sustainable offices where the office is using solar and this kind of stuff. Okay, but on a more basic level in Ukraine, we want to reduce the amount of returns that we do. So, for example, in the fashion industry, you know that sometimes a product doesn't work. It's not in demand. So traditionally, we would then bring these products back and then maybe destroy them even. But that's a no-no. Okay, so now we have to rethink our approach.
Interesting.
We have to be sharper in our estimates, sharper in our consumer knowledge, make a better forecast for these things, because in the past it was like hit and miss, right? Oh, well, it didn't work. Bring it back and get rid of it. Not anymore. Okay, so it's
Mm.
every step of the way where we have to change our mindset. I think that's the most important thing, is it's a mindset change.
No, I agree. I love that idea of a mindset change, and I think that's key in any transformation. Actually, I'm going to take a first question from the audience, and guys who are listening to us, please don't hesitate. Ask your question. So, question for you, Mark. Do you think online technologies, such as the one you were mentioning, skin scan, will replace human consultation in the future? And actually, I think
Yeah,
that's a great question.
that's a great
Are
question.
we dead as human because of technology?
Are we obsolete?
Robots are going
My
to cut our hair.
Exactly. Yeah, we should ask Elon Musk and all these and Bill Gates what they think of the
Right.
robots. Yeah, I'm glad somebody asked this, because normally I should speak about the link between the digital and the human element. Okay, and let's go back. Let's think of the best teaching institutions in the world. If you take a Harvard, right? Harvard will never be replaced with online learning. Okay, the digital part will accent the human part. It is a tool. It is something that helps. As I was saying, the whole idea of the spot scan or the skin consult. It is not for us to start playing the role of a dermatologist. It is for us to bridge the gap between the consumer and the dermatologist, but we send the consumer to visit the dermatologist. So it is something that helps. Okay, so I think in our business, and again, the human element, the service. People, when the lockdowns were lifted, we actually saw some of our e-commerce sales decrease, because people still want to go shopping.
Yes.
People still want to
Yes.
have this connection. They want to see, get out of the house kind of thing. So my conviction is that anything to do with digital and tech will only help the human interaction. Because beauty is a human need. It's something that makes us feel good. Um, but will it replace it? No. But as we had our discussion, excuse me, a few last week, uh, there are areas where perhaps there we have to think about it. So for example, if we went a step further, and we had some kind of filter that allowed
Right.
me so I didn't have to shave today, and I didn't have to put on my nice suit. If the filter then does the job of the makeup, that might be interesting. you know
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
again, with the way things are going, the deep fakes and all this kind of stuff, who's to say that one day somebody's going to create, or L'Oreal's going to create a digital makeup that you can wear when you're not at the office? Who knows?
And let's move on a little bit into this topic. You said someone will create, or L'Oreal will create, or maybe it's going to be L'Oreal and someone, or maybe it's going to be L'Oreal and buying someone. So basically, how do you work? And I know us at Sector X in Ukraine, we help you, we introduce you to startup, to people we think could be interesting for you. But how do you work with startup? And we always have that conversation that large companies, they have a hard time working with startup because they're not on the same momentum, and they're big and slow, and startup are quick and fast. How do you view that on the L'Oréal point of view?
Um, eh, I think that it makes us, it makes us think in a different way. Just being already exposed to this kind of environment, you know. So
Mhm.
again, by partnering, for example, with Sector X, we are connected with people who normally we would never connect with. And just on, for our people, it's super interesting. Like we have people who are dying to come and spend time with the startups because indeed it's a different mindset, it's a different personality. Look, L'Oreal, old company, big company, very traditional, very formal. Okay, um, risk adverse. I would say the first 75 years we were quite risk adverse. You do not invest in something until you're absolutely sure of it. The products have to be perfect, tested. And I was having a chat with somebody from production, and they were saying about the drop test, where we have to drop a mascara from, I don't know, 3 or 4 stories to make sure it survives. That has to go. That mindset has to go today. And I think by partnering with startups, it's good for us because the startup spirit is the opposite, right? It's test and learn. It's Mark Zuckerberg, move fast and break things, which is good for us. It's healthy, So it's kind of like a shot of Red Bull to energize us to think in different ways, like the startups do. However, we're never going to be the startup. Okay, we're never going to be this because we have our systems, we have our infrastructure in place. But I think it's just a really good way for us to think differently, and understand that this is now how the world is operating.
Um, but don't you think in fact it's coming back to the sources? Because at the source, at the very beginning, there was a guy who had this idea to launch a company. We took every risk to do it. He was not sure what he was doing. He tried. One of my personal heroes is French. He's André Citroën.
Ah,
And André Citroën created the traction avant and tons of, I mean, basically he invented the modern automotive. Didn't go very well for him, but his motto was, I don't want anybody in my team unless it's an inventor. But don't you think it's going back to the roots of the entrepreneurship that at the very beginning of L'Oréal took that crazy risk to launch the company?
exactly. You're absolutely right. So now the company's challenge is we have to maintain what made us successful. Okay, we have to keep that, but now we also have to try to encourage this kind of behavior, this kind of mindset.
Mhm.
And again, one of our CEOs was saying that L'Oreal has the size of a liner, but it has to have the agility of a speedboat. And what our
Right.
structure and our culture allows us to do is that we break down our businesses into divisions, into brands. Okay, and we're always buying brands, and I can give you an example. We purchased a brand called NYX Professional Makeup. Maybe you've never heard of it, but that's fine because it doesn't do mass media, which is good.
Mhm.
And it was a brand that was built by an innovator. She was from LA, okay, and she targeted makeup junkies. So these were the ones that are just
Ah,
using
yeah.
7, 15 products a day, okay, compared to 1 or 2 that we would see for a regular consumer. So we bought the brand because it was something that somebody created. So it was innovative. It had its niche, and the challenge, and the CEO at the time, he said, guys, I bought this brand not that we L'Orealize the brand, but we want the brand to Nixify L'Oreal. So working
Interesting
through, yeah,
perspective.
exactly. We have another little brand. It's not available in Ukraine. It's called Pulp Riot. Pulp Riot. It's a hair color brand that was created, I think, in the States somewhere, uh, by two people, hairdressers, influencers only, advocacy, no mass media, huge hit. And this is the way of the future. So these kind of innovations, they're not going to transform L'Oreal completely, but we are going to see this transformation on a brand level and on an individual level.
We have another question from our audience. And obviously, it's a question from another big corporation. So someone is sneaking and trying to discover your secret.
Uh,
And but that's how big corporation like L'Oreal can drive fast innovation. Fast innovation. What
Well,
is
I
the
think,
secret?
well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, I think the secret is you have to put your money where your mouth is. Okay, you're not going to change the world by being cheap. You're not going to change the world by saying to existing people who are already busy taking care of their part of the business to innovate. Okay, you need to build the infrastructure in place. Like for example, in Paris, we have a partnership with Station F. Station F, which is, I think it's the largest incubator in Western Europe. It's quite big, so that takes money, that takes resources. You have to hire the right people. Okay, because I'm not going to be the one thinking of the innovations for the next 50 years. I've been at the company for 24 years. I'm old school. Okay, so you need to
No,
put your
you're
money where your mouth
not.
is. Oh, come on,
No,
Dominique,
you're
I've been around
not.
for a
No,
while.
no, you're
But
not.
again, what's interesting, I can talk from experience just to see how far the company has come from a very traditional kind of FMCG to a really innovative and fast kind of company where you just it's such a pleasure to work at. But you need to put the money there, and then you have to leave them alone. I think that's something else. But again, it's not just for L'Oreal; it's
Mm-hmm.
other
Yes.
businesses that have dealt with. I read the Innovator's Dilemma, which is always the thing, right? Which Clayton Christensen's book, where it's saying that companies want to innovate, but the problem is if I'm innovating, then I'm taking my focus off my existing products, existing customers. And so, how do I do this? So, you have to create this little ecosystem that is properly funded with the right people, but you have to let them go. You cannot manage them in the same way as you do your businesses. And that's tough because I've put in whatever amount of money, I don't know what it is to do this, 10 million, whatever. I want to manage this thing, right? But I'm going to
Of
manage it like a
course.
L'Oreal guy and not like the startup guys. So
Mhm.
you put the resources, but then you let them go and you accept failure. The pharma industry, most of their projects in the pipeline are failures.
Fail. Yes,
Okay,
of course. Mhm.
but this is again coming back to the mindset. Are we ready to invest and not have a return on investment guaranteed? Not sure, because again, we are traditional. We know if I'm going to put this amount of media, I'm going to get this much market share. I'm going to get this much sales. In innovation, we don't know that. So I think we still have a lot to learn, but I think the company is going in the right direction with its partnerships, with its support of the startups in Paris and this kind of thing.
There's a last topic I want to cover with you, and once again, guys, if you have question, now is the moment. It's a future of work because, and it's also an innovation for a large company like you guys
Sure.
because we just had COVID. We had to mostly shut down all over the world our offices. Obviously, you're from home right now, and I know you've reopened the office kind of
Yeah.
in Ukraine, but it's complicated. Same for all of us. What is changing, and is it here to stay? Is it a deep trend that the future of work for all of us working for large and small corporations is going to be different?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point, Dominique, that the way we do business now is different than what we did before, and I don't think we're going to go back because it was a test and learn experience, right? We all lived through it. People who people who were used to coming into the office, so high level of control, high level of supervision, they had no choice but to use technology and to connect. So they got to learn the experience of working from home. Okay, so that's something that the COVID situation changed. I have an issue now with some of our staff because they enjoyed so much working from home that they don't want to come back. Okay, so but our company,
Yes,
you know,
see that.
our company's philosophy, and this is a policy of the group, is to say, look, we want people to have the freedom to work from home if they choose so, but we're not forcing you to do so. 2 days a week, okay, and this is coming from 1 day a month, which we had in place, I think, 3 years ago. Okay, and very few people were taking the 1 day a month because their boss wasn't doing it, so they were afraid to take the 1 day a month. But now people got used to working for months from home, and they've seen that they can do it. So now I have people who don't want to come back at all. But our company believes in cooperation, collaboration, spontaneous interaction in the hallway, which then triggers other ideas. So, you mentioned we're going into a new office, and we designed a new office. But again, this was before COVID. That it's a place where you come in to see other people. It's not a place where you're going to come in to look at your screen for 8 hours a day. If you have 8 meetings that you're going to be checking your screen, might as well do it at home. Don't waste the CO2 coming in. Don't spend time in traffic. Use common sense. But we have, for example, I think we've tripled or quadrupled the number of meeting rooms in the new office. So we took away space for individual desks and we encouraged places where people can meet. And that's what we want. I want people to come to the office to collaborate, but not to stare at a screen. And then it's just a level of trust you need to have in your people, right? And it's basically, are we delivering on the results? Yes. If we're delivering the results, trust your people. You don't need to control them.
So, and I know it's a big question around how do you build a culture of a company, but also how do you onboard new employees if you don't have a place to show them around, but in your vision, how do you create a culture in a company? Because to me, at the end of the day, I mean, I know this is a very Silicon Valley type of question because in Silicon Valley, people are big on we're a startup, we were not here before, and in 3 weeks we have to become 200 people. So how do we make those people stick together and give them a sense of belonging?
Sure.
So Silicon Valley is really big on this, but seriously, how do you create a culture in a company?
Well, I think this is something that takes time. I think it takes time to. It's not something that gets done overnight. We believe in listening to the employees first of all, so we want to understand what's on their mind. Every year we do an employee survey. It's quite large and it's throughout the entire company, so that we can compare versus different countries the level of engagement. Right, we want to make sure people are engaged. So you want to give people good feedback. The culture of feedback and candor. So we have a formal interview, not an interview process. It's an evaluation, year-end review, mid-year review, which I personally think is not enough. I think it has to be much more often, much more frequent, less formal. But people need to understand this because they need to understand how they're doing in the company. And once you have this level of understanding, then you can go a little bit further. And I read the latest book from Reed Hastings and Netflix. The No Rules
Me
Rules.
too. I
Okay,
love this book.
it
No
was a
rules, rules.
fantastic book.
Fantastic book. We recommend it to the audience.
Okay, very good. So it's a super book, and they basically outline how Netflix created its culture. And I think we at L'Oreal can learn a lot from it. Like first you have to have the feedback, the candor, then you have to have the trust. They're going all the way to you don't have to approve expenses. You don't have to plan your vacation. You go. That's a very high level of trust. Okay, but I think you need to do it step by step, and then once people understand that they're trusted, then they just perform. They just fly, and they're engaged. And then we have policies and procedures. We believe in ethics. We have an ethics code for our people, for our stakeholders. We have an ethics correspondent, so that if people ever have anything they want to discuss, they can take it up with our ethics correspondent, who is in every country. So it's these kind of things. But I come back to always in terms of culture. It's do you trust your people? Do you trust them? If you trust them and you allow them to make mistakes and learn from it, you can fly. But if you don't have a level of trust and you don't give people the feedback that they require, you're going to have a bureaucracy and you're not going to be moving forward.
I have one last very short question. Um, okay, we're gonna have two. Okay, no, we're gonna have one. Okay, no, two last questions. Very quick.
Two. Very quick.
First, I'm the owner. So, question from the audience: I'm the owner of a beauty tech startup. Should I contact Dominique from Unicity and Sector X or Mark from L'Oreal directly?
I think you
Mark.
can answer this question, Dominique.
Right. Contact me, Dominique at unit.ct. Super
Exactly.
easy. Dominique at unit.ct, and we will do the work.
But it doesn't mean that we're not going to perhaps meet or cross paths.
Right.
But the starting point is the startup hub.
Right, and we're going to take care of that. My last question is, L'Oreal is what? 111 years old?
Yeah.
Right, that's what you said?
111, 112, yeah.
Where will L'Oreal be in 11 and 12 years old from now? Do you think it will still exist?
Yeah. Yes, but it's not going to resemble the company we have today. It's going to be completely different, but for sure we're still going to be around. We're looking for the next 10 years what's happening. There will be different markets. We're still heavily reliant on Western Europe and the States, Sub-Saharan Africa. We're going to have, I even said maybe one day we don't have an office, who knows? But the company as it looks today will be completely, maybe at least 75% different in the future, but we're ready for that. That's what makes it fun.
Cool. And I hope you're all ready for the future. Mark, thank you. It was a really cool conversation. I hope our audience got a few interesting
sunscreen.
Yeah. And guys, sunscreen, but from sustainable packaging.
Very good.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure, Dominique, to speak with you. See you around, and have a good rest of the seminar.
Of the event.
Bye bye.